So The Flash just ended its latest season, which is The Flash Season 6A, which is not a complete season, but it is definitely separate from The Flash Season 6B, which isn't starting until February 2020, and with The Flash Season 6A adding such a great villain in Bloodwork, who definitely, spoiler alert, makes it onto this list, I thought I should update the top 10 best Flash villains of all time in my opinion, which I didn't do for The Flash Season 5, mainly because there wasn't a single villain from that season that would have made it onto a list, even like a top 15 list. So I didn't even bother making that video, but now with Bloodwork, this whole storyline, there is at least one villain to make it on to this list, and since I haven't done so in a while, it's definitely going to be a little bit different from the last time I did this. Now, one thing I have to note is that villains like King Shark, Captain Cold, and others who were villains but then turned heroes, I'm not considering anything from when they were heroes, because then Salvatore, who is Barry Allen, would definitely be number one, only counting from the appearances and the storylines where they were villains, and that is it. So with that in mind, let's begin the list with the 10th best villain from The Flash.
Those guns won't stop me, Flash. First I'll kill you, then I'll kill them.
Oh yeah? Let's do this then! Come on!
King Shark is definitely a very threatening villain, very menacing villain. He's definitely very cool looking. In fact, his CGI-like model is maybe the best CGI model in the Arrowverse, or at least he's definitely one of the best, and they definitely should get props for pulling him off so well on such a low budget. But also, he's just a very interesting character, being the Earth 2 counterpart of King Shark, at this point being one of the only survivors of the destruction of Earth 2. And again, I'm not counting the one episode where he turned into a hero, which, if I did, he would be a little bit higher on the list, but even without that, in the other like 3 episodes he appeared in, he's definitely always really cool to see because of his design, because of how interesting he can be, and he definitely makes it onto this list, even if it is only number 10.
See, you're the bus and that's the bomb. A kinetic bomb, actually, and if you go below 600 miles per hour, it'll explode. Same thing happens if you try to remove it. Ooh, it's active! Run!
Just like King Shark, the Trickster is always so fun to watch. Also, like King Shark, he hasn't really appeared very much. He's only appeared in 2 episodes, one in Season 1 and one in Season 2. However, in spite of this, he's still such a great villain, and it just so happens that both of those episodes are some of the best episodes of both of those seasons, in large part thanks to the Trickster, who I think is such a great villain. It also helps that he's played by Mark Hamill, who is famous in large part for playing the Joker, making the Trickster feel at least partially like the Joker of The Flash. So he's a great villain, and I would really like to see more of him in this season and also any upcoming season in the future, because why not? Again, Gorilla Grodd is definitely similar to King Shark in the fact that he's a CGI creature, and the fact that they pulled him off so well, it definitely speaks volumes because they have such a small budget, and this does mean he's never the main villain of a season, which, I mean, considering his status as in the Flash's Rogues Gallery, he definitely should have. The fact that he could appear at all, and the amount of episodes he does, and his model looks so good, it definitely is very impressive from the Flash's TV show, especially because of how much of a low budget they have. But also, whenever we do see him, like in Season 1, 2, twice in Season 3, and in Season 5, and we're also going to see him again in Season 6, it's just always so great. It feels like an event, and I definitely think that if they can't use him as the main villain of any season, because it would be way too expensive, I'm glad that he's basically an annual thing, except for Season 4. But either way, Gorilla Grodd is definitely a very menacing villain. They pulled him off very well, and overall, one of the best villains on The Flash.
And I'll let everybody live. But if I see even a little flicker of electricity on you, casket makers in this town are gonna have a very Merry Christmas.
Yet another villain who I do think just hasn't appeared enough at this point, because whenever he does, especially like in Seasons 1 and 2, it's just so great. He was in that episode with Trickster in Season 2, and I think just equally to Trickster, maybe even more so, he really made that episode such a great episode where he was an incredible villain. But I think it's mainly because of the Out of Time episode, which is arguably the best episode of the show ever. It is my second favorite episode of the show, and it is the highest rated episode, and it's not necessarily because Weather Wizard is in the episode, but I definitely think that he is a menacing enough villain to be the villain of the best episode of The Flash ever, or at least what is regarded as the best episode of The Flash ever. I think his powers are really cool, the actor does a great job, he actually has a surprisingly good rivalry with The Flash whenever he does appear, so yet again, another villain that I really want to see more of, and whenever we do see him in the past, he was just so great.
Speed you to my own private prison where you'll never see the light of day.
You could, but then I won't be around to stop my own private uplink that'll broadcast your identity to the world. So, the million-dollar question. What to do with me now, Barry Allen?
Before the Flash TV show aired, Captain Cold was arguably the best, or at least most famous villain of The Flash, and in the season 1, I think they pulled him off very well in that regard. He wasn't the main villain ever, and he definitely won't ever be in the future, but in season 1, he was a recurring villain, appearing every 6 episodes, and whenever he did, he had such a great storyline, great episodes, such a great rivalry with The Flash and with Barry Allen. I just wish he would have been a villain for longer. Honestly, I'm not a fan of the idea that he became a hero at all. I know a lot of people do like him as a hero, but I would have preferred for him to just be a villain with Heatwave and the rest of the Rogues for the entirety of the show, keep on coming back season after season, maybe even be the main villain of one season. I really think they could have pulled it off with the actor Wentworth Miller, with the character they created, because in season 1, he had an impeccable rivalry with Barry Allen, and he was such a great villain. It's just a shame that he wasn't for longer.
I can feel again. I can breathe again. I've beaten you, finally.
Where's Wally?
Salvatore is not necessarily a great main villain, but just because you're not a great main villain doesn't mean you're not a good villain, because I definitely think he is. His costume is absolutely incredible. His storyline, while being a little bit convoluted, is certainly interesting, and just the fact that he had as many appearances as he had compared to all the villains that are underneath him, it definitely gives him an edge over those characters. So overall, again, while Salvatore is not necessarily a great main villain, I mean, he is a good main villain, but definitely not great. He is still a very, very good villain. He also is very menacing, and the fact that he's played by Grant Gustin, while I don't think used to its full potential, definitely had some interesting moments to it. So Salvatore, again, not a great main villain, but definitely a very, very good villain.
What's our next step?
I'm thinking.
The Thinker was also not necessarily a great main villain, but just like Salvatore, he was a good main villain and a pretty great villain overall. I think that the actor did a very good job. Whenever he appeared, he had such a great rivalry with Barry Allen. The problem was that he kept on switching from actor to actor, which has completely ruined him as a character for the episodes that he wasn't played by Neil Sandilands. However, when he was a great villain who had a pretty interesting season-long storyline. And again, the fact that he's a main villain, well, again, not a great main villain, it definitely gives him an edge over the other characters, like the characters I've gone over so far, because he has more appearances, and just the fact that he wasn't a main villain doesn't mean he's not a very good villain, because I definitely think he is.
I am trying to save everyone. Don't you understand? You're not the hero here. I am.
The Flash, it's been a while since The Flash made such a great villain, but they did it again in The Flash Season 6 with Ramsey Rosso, aka Bloodwork, who is one of the best villains on The Flash ever. He's super creepy. The fact that we saw his descent into madness, which is not something we've ever really seen before, was super interesting. And another thing we've never seen before is for a villain to have such a condensed season. He only had 8 episodes, some of which he didn't really appear very much in, which I think that's why he's higher than Thinker and Salvatore, who both had the potential to be such great villains, but because of how extended their seasons were, with Salvatore's identity reveal being stretched out too long, Thinker going from body to body, actor to actor, which didn't need to happen, I think that's why Bloodwork is a little bit better than those two, if not much better, because the 8-episode season that he got was practically perfect in the pacing, in the build-up of his character, and finally seeing the Bloodwork monster that he would become, which is, I think, like Grodd and King Shark, such a great CGI design. All of which doesn't even take into account Dark Flash and all the rest of the Blood Brothers, which are an extension of Bloodwork, which by themselves, especially Dark Flash, is really creepy and really well done, just like Bloodwork himself. So I'm really glad the Flash, after a while of not really having any amazing villains, finally got another one after the other two that you already know who the other two are, but we're gonna get to them right now.
Never forget, I am the fastest man alive.
What can I say about Zoom that I haven't already said like countless times in previous videos? He's so scary. He's easily the scariest villain in the Arrowverse, and his season-long storyline is great, and the amount of episodes he got, this is a little bit unusual at this point, was not at the detriment of his character at all. I think that being the main villain of 23 consecutive episodes actually did him well, and he was used well in those episodes. He's super scary, and the use of the multiverse in his storyline definitely worked very well. All things considered, Zoom, I think, was one of the best villains in the Arrowverse ever, the second best villain in The Flash ever, and just overall an amazing villain. Moving on to the number 1 slot, which you already know is... The Reverse Flash is easily the best villain on The Flash, and quite possibly, and I think I could say this without a shadow of a doubt, he is the best villain in the Arrowverse. I don't think he's the best villain of any one given season, because that would be Prometheus for me. However, considering he is the villain of more than just one given season, where most of those storylines are really good, definitely gives him an edge over other villains. It definitely makes him the best villain in the Arrowverse, and easily the best villain on The Flash. He's got an incredible rivalry with The Flash, and he's got a lot of great storylines. His costume is great, his backstory is definitely very fleshed out, and he's got two very good actors, Matt Letcher and Tom Cavanaugh, who both play to their strengths when it comes to portraying the Reverse Flash, and both are very good at it. Honestly, I do prefer Matt Letcher because he's a more accurate Reverse Flash. However, when it comes to The Flash Season 1, Tom Cavanaugh was incredible, and he did such a great job at playing Eobard Thawne. So overall, I don't think there will be a lot of people who disagree that Eobard Thawne is the best villain in The Flash. However, let me know your list for your top 10 favorite villains. Where is Bloodwork? Like, that's considering Bloodwork season just came out. I'm really interested to find out what your guys' opinions on Bloodwork are, but definitely leave your top 10 or at least top 5 favorite villain list in the comments. But if you like this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.